Garbage in, garbage out.
And that's how we started now. That is probably the cutest intro, Deanna.
Yeah,
That's
like I said,
awesome.
yeah. I asked my brother too. I was like, "Is that the Jurassic Park fonts?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it looks like it.
So,
It definitely does.
and then my niece and nephew doing the garbage in, garbage out.
Very cute.
Yeah, you sent that to me, and I was like, "Wait, what is this going to be?" Because his brother actually asked if he could do that, and I was like, "I'm not going to say no to people doing free stuff for the show." And then I get garbage in, garbage out, and I was like, "That's the way." Yes,
Yeah, that's great.
So,
because
all
it's
right.
kind of a childish show anyway. So, I mean,
yes.
Works perfect.
All right. So, round of introductions. Clymia X. You know,
that's
Adam.
Cyclops guy.
And then we've got special guest Rick from Amazing Transparent Man tonight.
Hey guys.
And we're here doing a music episode.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here, Rick. I mean, it sounds like you're from around my hometown.
Yeah. I grew up in Wisconsin, but I went to school at NIU, which is where I met Connor when I was in DeKalb.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually came in with a mutual friend of mine and they were looking for pink shorts. I worked at a Target in DeKalb, and you guys were looking for pink shorts, and that's how I met them, was helping them buy pink shorts for one of their shows.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Famous pink shorts.
That's right.
I need to get a pair of pink shorts, actually.
Dude, everybody does. Everybody needs one.
Didn't you offer them to Alkaline Trio once?
We did. That was the show, the first show that we wore the pink shorts. Yeah, we were. Yeah, we played with Alkaline Trio and we wore them, and then we asked them if they wanted to borrow them, and they were not
amused.
By that. They did not think that was funny. Tony reminded me, their drummer at the time, he straight up asked, like, Tony asked their drummer, like, "Hey, you want to borrow these?" And the guy just turned around and walked away. Which is that was like my favorite thing ever. So then we knew that's the first time we had used the color pink, was at that show. So then we were like, okay.
This is our thing now.
We're on to something now. People are angry by a color. So now we're in it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Was that pre or post Aerosmith doing Pink? It's the color.
Oh, I don't even know. When did that come out?
That was like, I think I was still in high school when that came out. So
yeah, I really don't know. I wasn't gauging any sort of. I have no milestone recognition towards release of Aerosmith songs, so I don't know when those would have come out, unfortunately. But I do know that it was not popular in the punk rock scene.
No, it was not.
Very unpopular. You were wearing black, and you were, that was pretty much it.
And then you guys come out in wife beaters and
and so it was very. There was something to be said about it for sure. Definitely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I have a couple of questions for you, Rick, pertaining to, you got your 20th anniversary now.
Yeah.
And is that just because you guys seem to be pushing Print is Dead? Is it the 20th of that album?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No.
Oh, I was just curious why you chose to celebrate that album versus the three before it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And who's to say that we're not going to celebrate the albums before it?
Okay.
I'll start there. But what actually happened was early last year, so early in 2024, a very small record label that hadn't even released an album yet had reached out to us a couple times saying, "Hey, I love the album Print is Dead, and I would love to re-release the album Print is Dead." And one of the things I have a bit of regret over, especially with the band in particular, is that we never really got to tour on that album Print is Dead. Okay. And that was my favorite. That's my favorite record. We recorded it, meaning we were the recording engineers. I sat at Sonic Iguana Studios and recorded all those tracks myself. Yeah. We did it all, and we took a lot of pride in that. And whether you like the songs or not, it's definitely my favorite album. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, cool. Wow, that's pretty cool. But really what I did then is I pushed it over to Tony, who's one of the other members in the band. Tony and Chris are the other guys. And I pushed it over to Tony to say, hey, man, if this is something that you want to do, I'm on board. If you want to reach out to Chris and ask him. And it just started off with just releasing the record. That's all we were going to do is release, hey, we re-released the 20th anniversary of Print is Dead.
Okay.
But as we started chatting more and more and more and kind of talking about, well, how the hell are we going to promote this? We existed before social media. So there was no Facebook, no MySpace, no Friendster, nothing. And so we have no social media presence. I'm not a big social media guy. Tony's not a big social media, and none of us. So we're like, how the hell are we even going to do this? How do we promote to no one? It was going to be really tricky. So what we decided to do is, hey, it would be kind of a cool thing is maybe we could figure out how to get together and just play like one show, a singular show. It's kind of how it started.
And it's not growing into one free.
How many people would show up? 5 people? We don't know. So, but that's kind of where it started. And that's why we released Print is Dead. This is actually the 20th year that it came out this year. And, like I said, who's to say, that we're not going to release the other ones because I think we are.
Awesome. Yeah. That's the EP too, or just the 3 main albums?
I'm not 100% sure of everything, of exactly what we're going to do. We're still kind of working on that, but I think the next one will again, I don't want to, but I think the next one will probably be Death of the Party would be the next one that we do. I think
kind
that
of go backwards.
Work our way backwards to more embarrassing songs as we work back.
Hey, if you guys don't play Mindless Chimp on Saturday, I'm going to be highly disappointed.
Okay, well, be prepared then.
For either one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been really, Tony's been playing in bands this entire time.
Right.
He has a band in Austin. He lives in Austin.
Yeah.
He's got a band, but Chris and I haven't. We've moved on and we've got careers and other stuff going on. So it has been a major uplift to get back to this point to where we can even play together. I mean, if you don't play an instrument I don't want to say I haven't played at all in 20 years, but seriously, in 20 years, same thing with Chris. It's a real chore to kind of get back to even a semblance of what we once were. So we've been working really hard at it for about 6 months, almost every day. I go over everything almost every single day. So it's been an upwards hill climb for sure.
Gotcha. Frank IRL says, what band is this? Frank, it's a group called Amazing Transparent Man. Rick is a friend of mine that I guess you could say I was a groupie. I mean,
we never slept together.
Well, no, but
that you know of.
Right. Yeah, that I know. I mean, but I know that you've got a couple of them on Spotify. I think No Fun is the only one that's not on there.
Correct.
And the EP. I don't think Taking Back the Covers is on there either.
Taking Back the Covers is not. The Measure of All Things, which was our first EP-ish thing that we had recorded at Sonic Iguana Studios, and then The Death of the Party, and then Print is Dead. Those are the 3 that are on Spotify right now.
Which Print is Dead isn't that the Ghostbusters reference?
It is.
Yeah.
I stole that line from Ghostbusters. The front cover is actually, and I have the book in the other room. The front cover of that album is literally the front cover from Catcher in the Rye that I ripped off I literally tore the cover of Catcher in the Rye off and sent it to the graphic designer and said, make this say Print is Dead on it instead of Catcher in the Rye.
And then
the album cover with the the markings of like the folds and all that stuff was actually my cover of that book. So that's a book cover of Catcher in the Rye, and the title is directly from Egon Spengler from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
He says it to Janine when she asks him what he likes to read.
Yeah, what he likes to read, and he says Print is Dead.
Print is Dead.
That's always stuck in my head, and I'm like,
but it also
more
actually
now. I mean, think about it now.
And it also, I mean, it also does work for music too, because you've got iTunes and Spotify
Yeah.
and all that shit now. Like CDs are a way of the buffalo, and
And it's interesting because when we did that, it was before any of this.
oh yeah, yeah,
But I thought it was such a great, like, it's just such a great way to look at things. Like, oh, this technology or this new way of passing information is dead now. It's totally
Mhm.
dead. That I was like super
Yeah.
attracted to it right away.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember buying CDs, and like the biggest thing for me was always getting the the cover or the little sleeve in there, and then opening it up and reading the lyrics along with them.
Or the liner notes with like
Yeah.
when that used to be back in the day, especially when I was living in Wisconsin before I went to school. If I would buy a CD, I would always look at the bands that they would thank, and then the bands that they would thank, that would be the bands that I would try and go and find, because there's no Spotify, there's no mix, there's none of that. So it was like, if I didn't see you at a show, or one of my friends who we all like the same music didn't physically hand me the CD, I just perused liner notes. I mean, honestly, that is how I found bands, was liner notes.
Well, I found a ton through you guys going to all of your shows.
Right.
And I was curious because you guys circled a lot of the same, like, being the Chicagoland area, there was always Alkaline Trio. There was always fucking, which I have a love-hate relationship with, but Plain White Tees.
Yes.
And it's like, did you ever get frustrated when like they started to blow up and you guys were always seemed to be like right on the edge of getting it? And then like Plain White Tees, it's like, I can't even count how many times I've seen them with you guys, and I'm like, they always sucked live. They were so bad. And now it's like I hear them on the radio and I'm just like, man, it could have been the opposite. It could have been Rick and them on you guys on the radio. And
well, it's interesting to think about for sure, because I have my own personal opinions of why we didn't make it, quote unquote. I think the problem that I had was, if you would have met me when I was 20 years old and told me, hey, you're going to headline the Metro, I would have been like, there's no, can you swear on this?
Right.
Can you swear on this? Can I swear?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the internet.
I would have been like, there's no fucking way. There's no way. So like, that would have been what I would have considered the highlight of my career.
Peak.
So then when you get to the next level, then you're thinking about what's next. And then you get to that level and you think about what's next. And it's good because it motivates you to try to get yourself out there, but it's bad because wherever you're at, you're not satisfied at where you are, because you're always thinking about the next thing. With that being said, we as a band collectively, the three of us, were never good party people. We weren't big, like, hang out afterwards and let's all drink and hang out and we have got drug problems and we're just rock star dudes. We never did that. I mean, you've been in our van, you were in our van. We just would play, we'd play Final Fantasy X and just sit in our van. Like,
oh my God, that would so be me.
I mean, that was it. So we didn't really do that. So we had a hard time meeting other bands that we felt really connected to, and bands in our genre that we would meet were even rarer. I mean, we would meet, like, the band Cruiserweight, for instance. We're playing with members of that band when we're down in Texas.
Good old.
They are a band that we played with that instantly we all got along very well, because they were.
I love Cruiserweight. Boat
that we were in, but lots of the bands that were in our genre were not. They were just. I'm not saying all, and I'm also was probably not that approachable. We were always snarky. We always had a one-liner. If I had a microphone in my hand, man, it was like all bets were off kind of a deal. And so I don't know if we really played the game appropriately, where it was like you meet people and then you're friends and you're glad handing and everything.
Networking.
Cool. We didn't really care.
So a way to say it is like you didn't necessarily play to win, you played to have fun.
Yes, or in our world, to have fun in our world, what we considered fun. Now, to other people, they were like, I mean, this is so much so that when we would take a a fourth person with us to help set up and tear down and drive and do this, like a roadie person with us. The rule for the roadie, I mean, there's going to be a number of them at the show. You can ask them. The rule for our roadies was you had to party with the other bands.
Right.
Because we didn't. So we had to be like, one of us has to. So if you're coming with us, you have to get hammered with Avenged Sevenfold after the show. Okay. And he'd be like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And they would do it. They would party with the other bands. And we just go back to the van and have pizza delivered to the van and eat, and just be antisocial weirdos.
Well, I mean, even when you guys were on the Warp Tour and I was backstage with you, you guys were like that as well, I mean, I'm sitting there fangirling like, oh my God, there's Davey. Oh my God, there's Sum 41. You're like, yeah, who cares?
Like, I don't want to say that I haven't been awestruck by bands, because I've definitely been awestruck by people.
Yeah.
We were never good at playing that. And we would meet here's a great, very quick story. The band Agnostic Front.
Mm-hmm.
This is a weird ass, sounds nothing like us, has absolutely nothing to do with our genre of music, a completely different world. Okay.
Right.
We played like 3 or 4 shows with them. I don't even know how we got on that tour. They were the nicest guys ever. And we ATM bonded with those dudes immediately. So much so that the guy, when we would play before them,
mm-hmm.
and the crowd, the first couple shows would like boo us and shit, because we were pop punk. Like, who the hell wants to see us if you're going to sit up in front? Nobody. He would come out, the lead singer, like Vinny or whatever the hell his name is, and literally yell to the crowd, like, you're going to watch this fucking band. This is friends of ours, and you're going to support these guys. I'm not going to hear any of this fucking booing. And it was like, so we'd meet bands like that, and I'm like, fucking, I want to tour with you guys, even though the audience hates us.
So
I want to play with you.
I just want to say here from the comments, Frank IRL says, I remember headlining a show with A Day to Remember. Absolutely wild experience.
Oh, yeah,
and then he came back and said, we would party a little, but we never partied at shows. Then he came back and said, we always partied after we got back from the show or shows.
Well, I think that was another part of it that I don't really think was necessarily sat in. Like, when we would come to towns, some of the opening bands, they had real jobs. They had like regular jobs and stuff, and would just come locally and play the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday for them, or like it was a party. It was like, we have one show, and then we don't play for another month. But it's like, no, man, we have to play tonight, and then we got to get in our van. And we got to drive 4 hours because we got to play tomorrow. Like, this is not a party thing. This is our job right now. And not to say I didn't enjoy it, but it's like, how many days in a row can you do that? It without slipping into starting to do coke and getting real weird with all sorts of crazy crap. It's just, I don't think it's possible.
I know Waylon was the same way. If you know them.
Yeah. It was crazy. So I think there was a lot of that too. Like, people would be very excited and they'd be like, we want to hang, and where are we going? And let's do something fun. And sometimes we would, and I'm not saying we never did, just saying we really would. Avenged Sevenfold is awesome. Here's a good story for Avenged Sevenfold. When we played with them, I loved it so much. They just tore the shit out of us on stage when they came on after us. And it was like, I was up front. I was laughing so hard. I loved it. Like, they were just ripping on us like, fucking pussies up before us. It was so great. And he was even
offered them their shorts.
Laughing. Yeah, it was really.
I like when bands do that to each other. You know, it's like, it's all good natured usually anyway.
I remember.
I don't remember them being ill-natured at all. Crazy.
Some house show that you guys were doing. Hell, I think it was even at yours and Queerance's apartment. There was some band that was like, I want to say it was actually Penny and the Loafers, that when they first showed up, like, Tony wasn't at your place yet, and they started unloading their van, and they had the horns and everything. And I just remember you getting on the phone and going, Tony, they have fucking horns. I'm just like, just like,
it's like, that sounds about right.
the funniest thing, just the way you said, like, I couldn't tell if you were excited or if you were annoyed or like, they have
I don't-
fucking horns.
I don't remember. I remember thinking, holy shit, the landlord's going to get a call though. We have like a 5-piece horn section in my apartment. This doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
So you thought there was an eviction notice in your near future?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So, so what are you listening to these days then, Rick?
Oh man. Yeah, see, I knew you were going to ask me that.
I mean,
I think I listen to I listen to all the stuff that I listened to 20 years ago.
so Smoking Popes.
Yeah, I listened to the Smoking Popes, and I really like. I mean, I still listen to Alkaline Trio, and I still listen to, I even like old emo-y weird stuff. I like listening to some of that stuff because it's very nostalgic for me. Like, I remember, I remember seeing these guys, or I remember playing with them, and I remember this, that, and the other thing. But really, lately, I've gotten in. Lately, being the last couple of years, I've gotten into like super. I think the genre, honestly, even though I don't smoke weed, is like weed metal stuff. So like, there's a band called Mono Lord.
Nope.
I've heard of them.
And the Sword is like a heavy guitar band from Austin, Texas. Baroness. I don't know if you've ever heard them. Jason Isbell, I like a lot. He's like a country singer or something. I mean, I'm not really into country. I don't want to call it that. That's the stuff that's like really out there for me that I'm listening to. I have a hard time finding new music. I will say that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys have a hard time finding new music? Yeah, there we go. Stonercore. There you go. That's it.
Especially
weird.
as I get older, I find it harder to find new bands that I like. But I mean, you do find some, and especially like me, where I grew up listening to rap, metal, and stuff like that. Especially when you get into like genres like that, and I'm just like, what am I listening? A lot of the newer stuff, it's like, why? What is this? This is just whining. But then
Connor, you seem to really kind of keep up on stuff more than
I
at least.
I try to. But then it's like I will find a band and just like get glued to them. My newest one, my background, baby metal.
Right.
I absolutely fucking love baby metal. But then I've been, especially with your show coming up, I've been going back, and like the other day I found on Spotify The Dog and Everything. And I'm like, God, I haven't listened to these guys in a while. So I've been listening to The Dog and Everything now for a while. And then
so one of the things that has been very nostalgic for me, which I think is cool, on Saturday, the Saturday show, which is February 8th, when we play that, all the music that's going to be in between the bands is all of the bands that we played with, and a couple of ones that we listened to in our van. So everything is frozen in time at like 2005. There's nothing after that.
So there's gonna be like some Tsunami Bomb, and
it's all just like Tsunami Bomb stuff. And we were like, Tony was really into Snoop at the time, so I got Snoop Dogg songs in there, and like all the bands that we've played with and everything. And so we made this playlist. It's got like 4 hours of music on it. And I was just looking at it the other day, and I'm like, holy shit, this is pretty cool. Like, it's a bunch of stuff that you kind of forgot that you really liked, that you bring back up, and you're like, wow, 20 years ago, I didn't even, I'd forgotten about these guys, or forgotten that I liked this album so much, which is pretty cool to kind of go in the Wayback Machine to what you used to listen to.
Now, for your show on Saturday, since you're promoting Print is Dead as your big 20th reunion anniversary and all that, is it going to just be strictly songs from Print is Dead, or are you going to have?
It's not. Some of the songs that we're playing, we've never got to play live before, again, because we never really got to tour on Print is Dead. So we have, I would, we'll say 60% of the music that we're going to play is off of Print is Dead, and 40% is off of other releases.
Okay. Good, because one of my favorite songs that you guys actually did is on I believe it's on Print is Dead. Pink Eye. I absolutely fucking love Pink Eye, and then the other one, what is it? Something about a hair farmer or something.
Yeah. Since when did everybody in a band become such a hair farmer?
Yeah, that one is catchy as fuck. I
don't think we ever played that song live at all. That song, Mike Falumley from the Smoking Popes, the drummer of the Smoking Popes, sings the chorus in that song, actually.
Really?
When we were recording it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're trying to play songs that other people want to hear. Obviously, that's a big deal. But I think selfishly, we're kind of doing this for us as well because we never really got to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and the way we kind of, I mean, there wasn't any massive drama when we broke up or anything like that. But
Right.
I just don't think we really got good closure for us. So we're
Right.
using this as like a, hey, let's get all our friends together, as many as we can get together, and play these songs and just kind of celebrate it rather than try and, you know, again, as I talked about before, like, oh, we got to do what's next. What are we doing more? We got to move up a level. We're not concerned with that. We don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't
Right.
care. Like 6 people could show up. I don't give a shit, honestly.
I think more than 6 will be there. I think it's going to be a good turnout.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be for sure. And just to put a bow on this all, One Life, the band that is playing before us, their drummer is Tom, the lead singer of the Plain White T's. Just
Oh, really?
for you, Connor.
Oh, goody. Good. I'll be sure to throw something at him.
Yeah, during our last episode, I actually told Connor the story. I was living in Villa Park, and I don't remember what I was doing, but I had to make a delivery out to one of the bars there, and I saw there was actually a like one of those whiteboards and everything that tells you what bands are playing, and it said tonight's band, the Plain White T's, and they hadn't gotten famous at that point. And I was like, what kind of name is Plain White T's? I mean, that's just, what are you trying to do here? And I heard them playing, and I was like, God, that sounds like shit.
Well,
you know, and then I walked out, and then like a year later, I hear on the radio, they're like, you know, here's the Plain White T's, and I hear, hey there, Delilah, what's it? I was like, that is not the same band.
Yeah, we played a lot with them. A lot.
Yeah.
We did a tour with them and a band called Sugar Cult. We played with them at the Metro more than once, I believe. I mean, they were also in Chicagoland when we were. So it was like we were playing a lot of the same shows, a lot in the same circles for sure. And actually, we've got a very amazing video that I'm actually it'll be playing on Saturday when you see it from a camcorder that's 20 years old. But that show that we played was us, Plain White T's, and a band called Sugar Cult. We played in Detroit, and we played in this downstairs that has about 400 capacity. Upstairs, 2,000 capacity. Papa Roach was playing that show, and that is when we met Papa Roach, the band Papa Roach, and they were exploding because it is at the height of that. Turn my life into pieces. This is my
last resort.
And those guys were the nicest motherfuckers. I was so disappointed. I even told them that. I'm like, dude, this is sucking for me right now.
You need to punch me or something.
I want to make fun of you so bad, but you guys are so nice to us. They were just unbelievably kind. And that, again, that's another example of like, you just never can tell like what kind of music they play until you meet them. You just have no idea, dude.
Because you hear things like Burn and Hollywood Horror and things like that. And then you're like, wow, these guys are probably real assholes in real life. And then you get there and they're like, hi.
Yeah. and even better story. And I don't even remember. This was after the Papa Roach thing happened. And we were telling this story all over the place because I'm like, dude, this is crazy. These guys were so unbelievably nice to us. And we met, I can't remember who we were out with, but we were on tour with another band. And they're like, I started telling the story. He's like, dude, this is crazy. He's like, we just got done with a tour with this band called Thrice. And this band Thrice was at a truck stop in California in their van. And this guy got out of his car and he's like, hey, what are you guys in a band or something? He's like, yeah, we're in a band. We're touring. What's your band called? Oh, we're called Thrice and blah, 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 blah. He's like, well, I want to buy some merch from you. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. So they open up their thing. It was the lead singer of Papa Roach, and he bought all of their merch off of them.
Oh, wow.
Like cleaned them out.
Jesus.
Spent like $2,000 on merch and just bought all their merch off them at a truck stop.
When I was working one of the Warp tours for Avi, and I had asked him, I was like, who's the nicest band on tour? And he's like, oh, hands down, Andrew WK.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, really? And he's like, yeah. And then I was telling Adam on one of our other shows with Andrew WK, like he had one of the early morning sets at Warped Tour, and he got done with his set, and he's like, "All right, you want a picture, an autograph? I'll be at my booth all day." And like he did not leave his merch table. And like when the park was closing down, there was still a line there, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna be in the parking lot." And like he was the last band to leave, and just you wouldn't expect that.
So, do you remember Andrew WK had a television show called Seek and Destroy?
It was like Build, Destroy, Rebuild, or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
On like Nickelodeon or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's call this maybe 12 years ago. I'm volunteering at a cancer camp in Wisconsin. So what this is
it one step at a time?
Yeah. Yep.
So I used to go to that camp.
Are you serious?
That's this. I had cancer and I lost my eye. And for 4 years, I actually went to that camp.
Well, okay. I was a director of the 16 through 18-year-olds for like 6 years there.
Okay. I was there I can't remember. I was 12 years old and then 13. And then I couldn't go when I was 14 because I actually had surgery. And then I went again when I was 15 and then when I was 16 and I was part of Excursion.
Oh, you were Excursion. So you were one level below. So the next one is the older kids, right? About I can't even remember anymore now.
Well, there was Ace and there was Excursion and there was something else, and that's when I stopped going.
Yeah,
and then there was the next ones up were like the ones that were learning.
I was in charge of all the 16 through 18-year-olds.
Okay.
And I emailed Andrew WK. Connor, I don't know if you know the story, Connor. If you scroll all the way back through my Facebook, you'll see it. I emailed him and I'm like, "Hey, dude, people at Camp One Step at Wisconsin want to party with you. You want to come here during camp and hang with us and just come play volleyball with us and hang out for the day?" And he emailed me back and he's like, "Hell yeah." And he flew from California.
Oh, wow.
And Andrew WK came to Camp One Step and just hung out for the day.
Party hard.
Yeah.
That's
unbelievably cool, dude.
Let's see. My last year there was actually 2002. So I was there in 2002, 2001, missed 2000, and I was there in 99.
So
and
I would have been later. I would have been like definitely later than that because I was still doing ATM then. So maybe like 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. But yeah, it's one step at a time, camp. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you remember their theme song that was like so annoying but got so catchy?
Yes.
It's like that one step at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. But Connor, Andrew WK got on a freaking plane and flew out to hang.
That is amazing.
Please tell me they sang the thank you song to him, that From Coast to Coast.
Yeah. They did that.
Oh wow. Okay.
He also took metal. He also took metal pictures with all of them, like with the.
Oh my god, that was awesome.
We kept taking pictures. I've got a picture of me doing it with them. It's incredible.
That's awesome. He's one of the nicest. M from Tsunami Bomb.
Yeah. Tsunami Bomb also very.
They were all really nice.
Yep. They stayed with us in DeKalb. That was another band that we had met that we've instantly kind of gravitated towards. Again, I think we had a hard time finding bands in our genre that we really gravitated towards, but they were one.
Yeah, because I saw them.
We got along with them really good.
I saw you guys play with them at it was at the Fireside.
Yeah.
So, but and then actually one of the rudest musicians I've ever actually met at one of your shows as well. It wasn't actually your show. It was when you guys were playing like the side stage on the waterfront, and Roger from Less Than Jake. And you remember you had found a set of car keys.
I do.
And he's like, "I don't fucking care." And
do you remember what happened after that?
No.
Okay, so here's the story. We played this show in Rockford, Illinois, and there were two stages. One stage was the big bands, the big, like your major label
Cheap
bands.
Trick and all of that.
The other stage was like local-ish or mid-market kind of bands. And obviously, as it gets later in the evening, the bigger and bigger bands play. I think we were the last band to play on the small stage. So we were the headliner of the small stage. And then Less Than Jake played. Did they play first? They played first, then us, then Red Jumpsuit Apparatus or some other band was playing. It doesn't matter. I find these car keys and I go up to him. I'm like, because we hadn't played yet. "Hey, dude, found these car keys. you want to say something when you guys go up? And he's like, I don't give a shit, or I don't fucking care about that, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't think he knew who I was at all. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. So after Les and Jake got done, we played because we were the headliner of the local stage. And so everyone just turns like from facing this way to facing this way to watch the other show. And I get up on stage and I'm like, hey, I found these car keys. And I actually went up to Roger from Les and Jake and said, hey, do you have these car keys? Or can you ask somebody? He said he didn't fucking care. But we care, so I've got your car keys up here. But they did not give a shit, and everyone's like, "Woo!"
What?
That's awesome.
Out in front of fucking everybody.
I do not remember that.
Yes.
Turn the whole audience against him. Just love it.
Yes.
I bet he wasn't happy. But
Well, I didn't see him after that. I don't really. I'm sure he didn't care, but it was pretty hilarious at the time.
He got on his bus and drove out of there.
Yeah, he got on the bus and got the fuck out. Exactly.
what year was that? Do you remember? Just kind of curious.
Shit, Connor, I'm gonna put that on you, dude. I don't know, 2003, 2004,
somewhere in there,
something like that.
So.
Yeah, because my wife and I, when we met, one of the first big dates that we went on was actually 2 on the Waterfront, which was to see Cheap Trick.
Oh,
yeah. Well, they play that. They play that every year, so that's like their homecoming.
Yeah, they're the Rockford boys.
Yeah.
And I love they'll actually just get out and walk with the crowd outside,
Yeah.
Cheap Trick does.
Well, I think I saw a show you guys were playing. It was at the Pit. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the guys from Cheap Trick. It was his daughter. And the band was like Red Hot Tomatoes or something like that.
Okay.
And
we played with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that it's kind of interesting, like when we all get together, because there's only bits and pieces. I mean, it's 20 years ago. I mean, you've got a better memory than I do. It's like you start to kind of forget this shit. And then collectively as a group, we kind of like, oh shit. And then this, and then this, and then it starts to kind of come back to you. And you're like, oh, fuck. Okay. I remember that. I remember the really shocking things that happened. Like, like the stuff that altered me. I remember that. But some of the day-to-day stuff or the bands that we played with, I'd be like, shit, I don't remember if we played with them or not. I feel like we did, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You know? Kind of crazy.
Well, if you guys, if you have problems remembering the lyrics on Saturday, I got you covered.
Yeah. Well, yes, that is a concern of mine, but I also don't really care. I think if I mess up, that's all part of the plan. So whatever, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be whatever.
We got you.
Yeah. I'm excited about it for sure.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. So
so you mentioned Papa Roach earlier. Actually, I saw them. It wasn't technically part of On the Waterfront. It was when they did the Rock of Allegiance tour. When they did Rock of Allegiance, they went through Rockford, but it happened to be that the day that they were going to be there was the day right before On the Waterfront. So they kind of made that the kickoff show.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I ended up seeing them, and it was Papa Roach, Puddle of Mud. Who else was it? I know Buck Cherry was there. Red was there. That was like probably one of the greatest shows I'd ever been to. The funniest thing was we were trying to start a mosh pit where we were at, but nobody was really into it. And then by the time people started getting into it, the rest of us were tired.
Yeah, you get worn out.
Mm-hmm. And this guy, I'm not kidding, he was probably slugging beer. Every time I saw him, he had like 2 beers in his hand. All of a sudden, like when everybody else is trying to get a mosh pit going, he sits down on my chair, which I had to bring myself. He sits down and I'm like, he's not going to on my chair, is he?
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, sometimes it just gets a little, you get wiped out doing that kind of shit. I don't think I could do it anymore. I'll tell you that. I'd be like in traction for 3 weeks afterwards.
Well, you've had some interesting handouts at your shows. Like you at the Metro, you had what, milk and cookies, was it?
Did.
And then I remember at one of the shows that you did at NIU, it was in the summertime, and you guys brought like coolers full of Freezy Pops.
Yes.
And I think that was actually at a Battle of the Bands that Plain White Tees were at.
Oh, really?
So,
yeah, we always tried to. I think I mean, I feel like I've talked about this a lot, but I don't think we ever felt like we fit in very good. We never fit in. That's kind of how I felt. Like we were never cool, ever cool. And these other bands would have to like put up this image of being cool. And we were just like, we don't give a shit. I do not care. I'm not cool. I don't care that I'm cool. fuck it. What's something hilarious we can do? And like, oh, let's bring Freezy Pops for the entire audience. Like, who doesn't want a fucking Freezy Pop when it's
Right.
5 degrees outside? I don't
Yeah.
give a shit how old you are. You are having a damn Otter Pop. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, let's do that. Let's do, what about anything we could think up that was like kind of, I don't want to say original because that a Freezy Pop is not original, but just different than the norm, which is just like smoke a cigarette, drink a PBR, and talk about how cool you are. It's like, I don't give a shit about that. I just don't care.
Well, I mean, for the milk and cookies, didn't you guys basically sneak into Subway at night and make the cookies? Or
Well, we didn't sneak into Subway at night. We worked there. But
right.
to say that we paid for the cookies would be an understatement. It would be ill. We did not. I am certain of that. So what we did is we maybe just ordered a few extra dozen, 10, 20 dozen of cookies. And then we just mistakenly baked them all and then mistakenly put them in our van and drove them to Chicago.
To Chicago.
They may have accidentally found their way.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we used to, that Subway that we worked at was like, for our band, was like the hub of our band. Any band that was on tour that came through, we would feed them at that Subway. Any band. Every time anyone would even be remotely close, it's like a free meal and a place to stay. None of the bands that were small, that like us, would ever pass up that opportunity. So we fed everybody there.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
It was a big, we used it to our advantage big time.
Shit, I remember many a night sitting in that Subway just dicking around with you.
100%.
Like I don't think that Subway's even there anymore.
It's not. Tony had Tony and I would start losing our minds over there, but Tony had something that he liked to call the Subway Challenge, where he would take what you could do is you could challenge Tony to who could eat a bag of Doritos faster. And if he could eat it faster, you had to pay for your meal. If you could eat faster, you get your meal for free. And so what they do is they pull a table up and set two people down next to each other. So Tony and a competitor, this is always like a band guy because anyway, and Tony would crush up the Doritos in the cup and then fill it with water and drink the Dorito water to finish the bag faster than the other person.
That sounds like Tony.
The Subway Challenge. You get your meal for free if you could beat Tony with Doritos.
And Frank IRL says 2 of our band members worked at Subway.
You got it. If you're broke as shit, you got to work at a place like that so you can feed yourself. I didn't pay for lunch for 5 years, and either did any of my friends, including Connor.
So I think I figured out Subway's financial issues now.
Yeah. Yeah,
it wasn't.
I think
Jared
Subway had a few
problem.
more issues than just financial. I think diddling kids might have been on the table there. That we didn't contribute to that. So,
oh Jesus!
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Who started it?
Good night, everybody.
I was waiting for the perfect opportunity to use that, and you just gave us.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Saturday though. It's going to be fun. Yeah,
it should be a good time.
We wanted to do the Friday show too, but then Allie was like, "That doesn't even start till 10."
It's so late.
She's like,
I had like 10 people message me that are like, "Dude, I can't do the Friday show. Like you don't even go on till like 11:30." And I'm like, I know. I'm asleep for like 2 hours by 11:30.
Right?
11:30?
Yeah.
It's like I remember when my nights used to start at 11:30.
Oh, I can't even deal. I know. So what I've said to everybody is like, we are just going to pretend like that we're cool people for 48 hours. All I got to do is hold on for 48 hours. On Sunday, I can just die in a pile on the ground. I'm going to stay up till like 1:30 on Friday night. It's going to be fucking crazy. I'm going to be a party animal.
Do it all again on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you there, Connor. I was like, fuck. And what's funny is when we went to Chart Attack and asked them about the show if they wanted to do it, And they're like, yeah, what time? And I told them the time. They're just like, fuck, that's because they're old guys too, like us. I'm like, I know.
Right.
Oh my God.
I love the premise of Chart Attack. They're just
Yes.
they crack me up.
Yeah, they do a very
And,
they're really hilarious live. They do a very good job.
I know why that reminds me. Last year, I actually went to the 90s nostalgic tour, and Kid and Play was actually at that tour. If you remember them.
Oh,
And-
hell yeah.
Yeah, and it was so funny. Like
hair, he doesn't have the hair anymore, does he?
not anymore, but I mean, they performed just like they did back then. But it was so funny. At one point, they just got done with like one of their more, I can't remember which song it was, but it was like one of the more high like hyper songs.
Yeah.
And at the end, he goes, "We are Kid and Play, and we are fucking tired, man." And then they just look at each other. They're like, "Man, this shit was a lot easier 30 years ago."
Yeah.
It's like the whole audience just busted out laughing. And he's like, "Who saw us at our earlier shows?" And you get like half the audience. And he's like, "And you're still here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm about ready to sign up for Medicaid and just quit."
Yeah.
So
It's true.
Still has the hair. That would have been hilarious. That reminds me of the one Warped Tour when it was like essentially Jerry only and friends. You couldn't even really call them the Misfits. And he's gone bald now, so he's got the bandana with the devil lock hanging down.
Yes.
So.
It was interesting. There were a couple Warped Tours that, like, before Eminem really took off, he performed at it. Snoop Dogg was at it. A couple. D12 played at a couple of them because they were like fringe. It was before, it was like a fringe rap, and he was white, and they didn't know where to put him yet. Like he hadn't hit like with rap really hard. So like, well, maybe it's like this. Maybe these are the kids that are into him. So it was very. I mean, that is crazy, but
it's amazing how many times he got booed off stage when he first started. And actually, he was on tour with Ice-T at one point. Ice-T actually asked him, like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "You're good. You've got the talent, but you just keep getting booed off stage. Why do you keep getting up?" And he's like, "Because I want longevity. I want what you have." And it's like, he's not doing it for the money. He wants to just make a difference. And eventually that made him, like I was telling Connor, I think, I was like, that's why people respect him now, because everyone tells him he's the greatest rapper, and he's like, "Well, what? I'm a rapper," and then everyone's like, "No, you're the greatest." He's like, "Okay, do you say so?"
Yeah. Well, it's crazy to be able to. I can't imagine going back now, like taking 20 years off and doing this. I couldn't imagine doing this for the last 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you got some bands that are still chugging along. Like, Offspring just put a new album out, and I'm like,
and I don't know how they do it, and I don't know how the creativity stays there. I don't know how you can afford. I mean, if you really made it big, but there are even some smaller bands that are still going, and it's like, I don't know how you do that. How do you afford? How do you get health insurance? And I mean, we were so broke when we were doing this because it was our full-time job, right? That is all we had. Yeah. I had no health insurance. I was $13,000 in debt just buying medication for my asthma for myself because I had no money. And it was like, if you were sick, you had to go to the emergency room or go to a walk-in clinic, and we just had to pay out of pocket or whatever. And it's like, you can only hold up that clip for so long before you start to be like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I want to drink sponsorship.
Frank's hawking his glitch.
I had a when we were doing Warped Tour, one of them, this is a side story, but do you remember Amp energy drink? It was like a Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Okay. All right. So I made friends with the Amp guy in the Amp tent. And then next to the Amp tent was a Yoo-Hoo tent. Remember, they still have it, the chocolate drink.
Yeah.
Made friends with the Yoo-Hoo tent. So what we would do every morning, we would go over to the Amp tent. They'd give us a case of Amp, and I'd go over to the Yoo-Hoo tent, and they would give us a case of Yoo-Hoo, and then we would fill our cooler with Yoo-Hoo and Amp. And for 30 days, body by Yoo-Hoo and Amp energy drink. That is all we pretty much did for like 35 days straight. Just drank like 4 Amp energies and 3 Yoo-Hoo drinks a day.
Jesus.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I bet your body loved that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
Amp
can't
and
remember
you,
anything.
you'd like to sponsor our show. You definitely can.
Yeah, Amper. Yeah, Yoo-hoo. You want to throw these guys some chocolate beverages? Please do.
My kids will love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I could drink it ever again. I think I've got. I think my gag reflex would kick in.
Yeah,
You
see,
just
that's why
drank it way too much.
that's why I was surprised you guys still freaking or worked at Subway for so long, because like the smell of the bread.
Yeah, I can't
would
do it
imagine
anymore.
like
Do you have any food like that you just can't eat anymore?
no, but I'm also a pig.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have it that I can't eat it anymore, but I used to work at Burger King, and after I quit Burger King, I couldn't have Burger King for about a year.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Like it all smells the same. It all tastes the same after a while. Like my wife is always like that. She's like, every Subway sandwich tastes exactly the fucking same, Rick.
Mhm.
Every one. I'm like, I don't know.
Frank
I
is
don't think-
wondering if Amp is still around. I don't think so.
Somebody would have to look. Amp energy drink. No,
God.
I don't think so.
To Google
Is it?
we all go.
No, I don't think it is. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, discontinued.
Yeah.
But
Mountain Dew Amp. I was all anything Mountain Dew. You could turd in a Tupperware and throw a Mountain Dew sticker on it, and I would have bought it.
I think we were all like that at one point.
I mean, I was so into Mountain Dew, dude. It was just like, it's not even funny. Yeah, but that Amp, it was, and I think Amp maybe it wasn't before Red Bull, but it definitely was before Monster and that kind of stuff, right?
One of the
think.
leading, one of the first.
I think it was
out
it was like just prior. I think actually Monster knocked Amp out of the top, or maybe it was.
Well, I don't
Red
think
Bull.
Amp was in the top at all. I mean, it was fine. There was only one flavor of it though. It was like
there. Green
whatever
Death.
that. It's like Mountain Dew medicine.
Oh,
drink.
wait, yes, Amp is still around. It says Mountain Dew Amp, now simply called Amp or Mountain Dew Amp Original, is still available in the United States, although it may not be readily found in every store.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it might still be around.
So
I might have to
Amazon.
buy myself. Well, look at this. I'm on Amazon. I can buy 12 pack of 16 ounces for $30. I'm
Well,
going to
remember
call up my old
Surge?
contact from Warped Tour and see if I can get a. Hey, buddy, you still work at Amp?
We're going on a reunion show.
We're playing 2 shows. Can we get 2 cases?
Rick
Exactly.
needs a sponsorship. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See what I can get out of it. Yeah. I'd
Yeah,
ask Subway for a sponsorship, but after all the stories that I've told about how much money we've ripped off from Subway, I don't think they would be too keen on it. We took so much shit from Subway. So can you sponsor us? They'd be like, hell no, you owe us $10,000.
Right. Hold on there a second. Let's tally up your
Yeah,
tab.
Yeah, your insubordination, your past insubordination.
You need to clock in here about 4 years ago.
Well, I could say that they owe me because they fired me actually, because all because I couldn't get the hinge cut right.
You got fired for the hinge cut, huh?
Yeah, just for the hinge cut, because I cut it. Just my hand didn't I couldn't get my arm to go. But I was cutting it, more this way, but I was getting the cut perfect. I just wasn't doing it the way the boss wanted me to. And after about a week, he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to let you go because you can't." I'm like,
"That's awesome." I've only been fired once. I've been fired.
You should have blamed it on your eye and then sued them for everything.
Yes. Oh, I would have been like, "You just don't like me because I've got one eye. I can't hinge cut. My depth perception is all thrown off with the hinge cut."
They're going to be like, "Yeah, you drive to work." I'll be like, "No, yeah, I can drive a car, but I can't get the cut."
Yeah, I can't do the hinge cut, buddy. Driving's so much easier than hinge cutting. You have no idea. That would have been great.
That really would have been.
There's probably retroactive. You could probably still go after their ass if you want to.
Maybe. But the thing is, I don't think that Subway's even there anymore because the guy that owned it.
Corporation.
Oh, okay. But the guy that owned it owned 4 other stores, and I know at least 2 of them went under. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel bad for you.
I think that's what happened with ours that we worked at too. I mean, luckily we didn't bring it down. I thought for sure we would have brought it down, but we did not. It sustained. What's funny is after we made a little video for a promotion, and one of them was about Subway on our social media, and in the comments, one of the old manager that we're still friends with posted and said, "I've been sweating about finding out where all those cookies and sandwiches left for the last 20 years. I'm so glad to finally have closure."
I'm calling the cops right now.
I got one more story for you. One more Subway story. Tony and I worked together. We'd have the same shifts at Subway, and we'd have to place the orders for stuff. And we had a soda machine, and it was a Pepsi was what we served, so there was a Mountain Dew one. So what we did is we played this very slow game where we would forget to order other stuff and would order more Mountain Dew. And we were trying to get every single one of the taps to just be Mountain Dew. So you had no choice when you came to Subway.
I hit the Pepsi button and the Mountain Dew came out.
We got like maybe, I think there's like 6 spouts. We got like 3 or 4 spouts in, and the managers still weren't saying anything. And then the owner of like 5 Subways was like, "Why the fuck do we have 15 like boxes of
the bibs
of Mountain Dew syrup, and we're out of all this other shit? Please correct us."
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, and just want to catch up on chat here. Frank says the Hinge Cut EP, Rick's new EP.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what you should call it, the Hinge Cut. Then he said, sorry, got the wrong one there. Sure, fuck it.
Yeah, sue him. Absolutely, you should go after him.
So Frank, if you got, well, I'm sure you guys don't know, but Frank is a buddy of mine that I met through streaming. So you guys should check him out. I know he's on Kick, and he's on a bunch of different channels. Frank, if you want to go ahead and shamelessly self-promote yourself in the chat, go ahead.
Go for it.
Very cool.
Yeah, Frank's a good streamer. He's fun to watch.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for dropping in the comments, Frank, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey guys, I got to jump right now.
Sure.
It was awesome meeting you, Adam.
Yep, you too.
Connor, I will see you next
Saturday.
weekend.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
sir.
looking forward to it. Like I said, mindless chimp.
You're welcome to come back onto the show anytime.
Awesome, man. Well, I truly appreciate it. It's awesome meeting you, and we will talk soon, you guys.
All right, sounds good, Rick.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good one. So yeah, what I was saying here is actually with AMP, that was actually I pretty much mainlined that and Code Red when I was a kid.
Yeah. So this being the music episode, I gotta ask you, Adam, do you have a favorite video game soundtrack?
Soundtrack, it's kind of hard, but I would say, and I know I'm probably gonna get some flack for this, but I would probably say the Guardians of the Galaxy, the latest one that they did with somewhat the latest, but the one that they just did with Square Enix. It's just, it hits 80s and 90s nostalgia for me. I could listen to that soundtrack all day long. I would say that one, and then probably, and I know another one I'll probably get some flack for, but I really like a lot of the songs that Rockstar gets for Grand Theft Auto Radio. So, but if I had to choose one, I would say San Andreas's soundtrack.
Okay.
That's if we're going with licensed music. If you want to say like more original music, I would say a lot of the orchestra music from Uncharted. If I were to listen to that, I don't listen to orchestra music very often, but if I were to say what was my favorite, just because it's so iconic and it's so recognizable, that would be my favorite. How about you?
I would have to say, as far as licensed music, I mean, if you're a '90s kid at all, the fucking Tony Hawk. I mean, that opening riff for Superman by Goldfinger, like everybody and their mother knows that one. The song, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with the song titles, but there's a song called May 16th by Lagwagon that everybody knows that from Tony Hawk. And so I'd say for licensing games, the first Tony Hawk is definitely a fantastic soundtrack. As far as like orchestrated, I would have to say Nier Automata.
Okay.
That game in and of itself is just amazing. And then the music, there's certain levels that just right in the feels that, like, along with the storyline and stuff. And then I would also have to say that, oddly enough, the Like a Dragon games that I've been playing lately, they've got some pretty good orchestrated stuff in it as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and Frank is here. He was saying Rockstar has some jams. They do. What I was kind of disappointed when they did the remaster of the original Grand Theft Auto trilogy, or I don't say original, but like 3 and Vice City and San Andreas. And then they got rid of a lot of that. And I'm like, I know that that's licensing issues, but still, it's like when you're used to hearing it from the original, it's like, do everything you can to get those songs back for the remaster. Then he came back in and said, that's why I play GTA 5 sometimes. And he came back and said, Tony Hawk's soundtrack was pretty badass.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of like games with licensing issues, Rock Band, I know that they've had some serious license, which makes sense, but or they've even been told flat out no by several bands.
And then did it anyway.
They had somebody else cover it, yeah. Which I think got them into some hot water as well. But
well, what was funny was I can't remember which rock band it was, but I heard Axl Rose got really upset that they used Guns N' Roses songs on Rock Band, or I think that was Guitar Hero.
It was Guitar Hero because they had Slash as like one of the end bosses.
And he got really mad that they used his songs without his knowledge, but Slash obviously gave his acceptance for it, and I think they got it from the record company.
Yeah,
but he wanted to sue them
because in that game it was like, I think it was Guitar Hero 3, because that was the one that kind of like when that whole musical instrument genre games exploded, and it was Slash was a boss, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine was a boss, and then I think like the very end boss was actually Satan, but
because obviously
it was because it was a metal version of The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and that was the final boss.
Did you hear the cover of that who was that that I think it was Nickelback did?
No, but I'm not a big Nickelback fan.
Yeah, they did The Devil Went Down to Georgia, but instead of it being a golden fiddle, it was a golden guitar.
Oh, geez.
And of course, then the two riffs were like guitar riffs instead of the fiddle riffs. And it was like, okay, you know what? If this was an original song, I can see where this would be kind of cool. But since it's such an iconic Charlie Daniels Band song, and you're making it rock instead of fiddle, and you're doing it with golden guitar, and I'm like, if it was an original song, I could probably get behind this. I just can't.
One of my favorite things about Nickelback ever was from American Dad, and Francine was bitching at Stan about something, and he's like, Francine, all I want to hear right now is the sweet, sweet sounds of this Nickelback CD as I roll over it with my SUV, or something like that. Just like, crack me up. But
I love when Deadpool defended Nickelback against Fred Savage, of all people, in the PG-13 Once Upon a Deadpool, which was the PG-13 version of Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
And I love, he just goes on, and he's like, talking about how they're like the 11th most successful rock band of all time, and like all these awards that they've won. And he's like, and a partridge in a fucking pear tree. Like, I'm tired of all this Nickelback hating. It's like, honestly, I don't think they deserve all the hate that they get, but some of it they bring on themselves.
I mean, it didn't help Chad marrying Avril Lavigne for 3 months or something like that. I know that didn't last. Or is she still married to him?
No, I think she just got remarried, didn't she?
I don't know.
And back to Google.
I know she was married for a while there to Derek from Sum 41. And then I don't remember if that was after or before Chad from Nickelback.
We were talking about Family Guy jokes, and actually that was one of my favorite ones from the Star Wars episode, where I forget what the joke, the setup was. He was like, They made a joke about Sum 41, and he was Peter goes, all the small things, and then he's like, oh, that's Blink 182. He's like, who's Sum 41? And Chris goes like, oh, Sum 41 is the band that was married to Avril Lavigne. He's like, well, it sounds like everyone would come out a loser in that situation. He's like, everyone did.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Okay. So who is Avril Lavigne married to? She was married to Chad Kroger from 2013 to 2015. And
Yeah, 2
then,
years.
okay, Derek Whibley from 2006 to 2010.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't. Maybe she's not married now.
Well, there you go, Frank. You can marry Avril Lavigne.
But okay, and yeah, Frank came in here and said, I skateboarded to some of the Tony Hawk's jams.
Dude, some of those jams were like solid songs, especially the first two. I mean, like they had AFI, they had Lagwagon, they had freaking. Of course, now I can't think of any of them, but it's Goldfinger, like I had said, and yeah, I'm still gonna have to say Tony Hawk is the best licensed music game.
Oh yeah, it's definitely up there. Let's see. Just trying to get this down here. So yeah, so that's who Avril was married to. And actually, my wife and I were just talking. We were like, why does it seem like all of these bands, like they marry each other and then they just quit? Then again, you know how hard especially if you're that high on the music totem pole.
Yeah. Plus, I would imagine like if they're separate genres, trying to like have a outside life outside of touring, and like because for example, for a longest time, Christ, now I can't think of his name. Tim Armstrong from Rancid. He was married to Brody from the Distillers. Well, they're the same type of music. They're the same type of. They were on the same record label, even, and so I mean, they could tour together and not have issues. But like Avril and Nickelback, yeah, okay. So,
yeah, I know what I was kind of alluding to earlier when Rick was on here. I know they usually try to put a lot of those bands together that are they might have some friction, but not a whole lot. But I know that when Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie, you would think that they would get along because they have very similar styles and everything, and like the whole kind of crazy out there. Apparently, they had to be separated on the tour because they did not get along, and apparently they took digs at each other during the shows.
I heard that too.
I'm just like, why? I can see you guys having trouble on the back, but why are you like digging each other during the show? Because obviously the audience is there to see both of you.
Yeah, I know when one of the times I was working Warped Tour, for Avi, Rick's record label, and all that. The one time I had asked him, I was like, Avi, who's got the most pimped out bus on this tour? And he said, I don't know how pimped out it is. And he's like, but 311 had 3 separate buses because at the time, all of the band members hated each other. And they would literally get off their separate buses, go perform their set, and then get back on their separate buses and just like ignore each other. Like, now I guess they're best of friends and all that. And which is great because I fucking love 311. But, to hear that they hated each other so much that they had to have 3 separate tour buses just for the Warped Tour.
I know Oasis was kind of similar because
they're brothers too. So I mean, they have that whole sibling thing going. But yeah, no, actually, speaking of Oasis, one of the first times they toured the United States was when Definitely Maybe came out, and their first stop was Chicago, and I went to that show, and it was like right before that show even started, Liam and Noel got into an argument, and Liam was just like, fuck it, do the show yourself, and left. And so the entire concert was just Noel and like the backup band and stuff. But
Mm.
yeah, I've heard stories about them too, and that's why they're trying to get a reunion thing together for them. And it'll start to work and work and work, and then they fucking butt heads about something, and they're like, well, now we're not doing the tour. And so they've been trying to get a reunion tour for like the last 5 years.
Mm. Yeah, it seems like what was that? Who was it? There was another tour band that was trying to get together for like 5 years, and I can't think of who that was. Well, I know Blink-182, they kept trying to get things back together, but it was actually Tom DeLonge that didn't want to do it for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I don't know.
they had kicked him out. I don't remember what the reasoning was, but they had kicked him out. And so he started Angels and Airwaves. Well, first he was Boxcar Racer.
Mhm.
And that was still with Travis. And then, he stopped talking to Travis as well and went on and did Angels and Airwaves. And then Blink-182 took Dan, no, not Dan, the other guy from Alkaline Trio.
Mhm.
And they even did a couple albums as Blink-182 with that guy.
Right.
Matt. They took Matt from Alkaline Trio.
Right, because I remember he had to learn how to do punk music because he was more like into the metal or more harder rock, and he had to learn how to be a punk rocker,
And then they, Mark from Blink-182 came down with that cancer scare.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that kind of got him talking to Tom again. And they felt that it was maybe time to bury the hatchet and try again.
Well, and I can't remember if it was before Mark's cancer or if it was after, but I know Travis was in a plane crash.
Mm-hmm.
And
Travis damn near died.
Yeah, and that's why in that song that they just came up with, One More Time, that's why they reference that, and they're like, why does it take cancer or a plane crash for us to get back together? For us. But yeah, I know for a long time it sounded like, from the articles that I've read, it sounded like Tom, they all wanted to keep going on tour, but do more music, but he kept wanting to push it off.
Well, he got really weird there for a while, like aliens and shit, like big time. Like, I mean, they'd always made references and stuff. Like, they even had, I believe, if I could talk, Blink has a song called "Aliens Exist," but Tom got into it big fucking time and was really out there, and
and like the conspiracies and stuff.
Yeah. Another band too that siblings that constantly get into it, Heart and Nancy Wilson, the sisters, they 1 minute they're all lovey-dovey and let's go on tour, and the next minute they're like ready to beat the shit out of each other, and it's weird.
They seem like they'll be able to get together for like little events, not necessarily a long tour, because I know they did kind of a recreation of a couple songs for Family Guy, and remember these beans?
And What About Beans? Yeah.
What about beans? But it's like, they'll do little things here and there, and then all of a sudden it's like you never hear from them again. Then if there was any band though that you would like to see get back together, who would you choose?
Oh God. I'll have to think about that.
And anybody in the chat.
Oh,
too, anybody.
I wouldn't mind seeing. I would love to see Oingo Boingo get back together. I mean, they have. It's pretty much all of them, with the exception of Danny Elfman, and they're formerly known as Oingo Boingo or some shit like that, and they do small tours. But I would love to see like a big ass reunion show with Elfman. And, it was weird because like after Elfman left Boingo and they broke up, and he had said that he was done, period. Like, he's just, I'm scoring movies now and that's all I'm going to do. And then he started doing these solo shows, and I think everybody kind of got pissed off at him about it. And so then he would do his solo shows, but he would include at the end of his sets Steve Bartek, the guitarist from Oingo Boingo, who's also been like, Elfman composes music and Bartek has been his conductor for a lot of stuff. And so Bartek would come out and then they would do like Dead Man's Party, one of their biggest hits. They would do that one together. And but I'm hoping that they would do one more show.
Yeah, that'd be really good. I know Rick actually mentioned D12 at one point. I'd really like to see D12 get back together at some point. I know that Proof has passed away. Yeah. But yeah, so you can't really do a full reunion show without him. But it would be nice to see. The rest of them get together and do so. I know that Bizarre actually had a little bit of a cameo verse on the death of Slim Shady.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit of one, which was in the song Antichrist. And at the very end of it, you can hear him go like, "Did you ever want to dance with the devil? Dance with the devil?" And then, so it's him. Mm-hmm. But that's really it. I'd love to see all of them get back together. Even put out a new album,
Well, I'm hoping that, I didn't get a chance to say this to Rick, but I'm hoping that with this 20th anniversary tour and, 3 shows, I don't know if you'd really call that a tour, but with them getting back together, maybe some new music becomes out. That'd be pretty cool. Because I'm pretty excited. I mean, like I said, I even broke out the old ATM shirt. I'm surprised it still fits me, but
it fits ? Right?
It's a tight fit, but it fits, and but yeah, no, I was ecstatic when I heard that they were doing. I said to my wife, I'm like, we got to go to this show, and they are. If you like Blink 182 style music and stuff like that, that's what ATM was. And like I said, they did a lot of the Chicagoland areas circling, they did, like he said, Alkaline Trio, a lot of shows with them, Plain White Tees, a lot of shows with them. And I'm looking forward to Saturday's show. So I won't be on next week, obviously, if you're doing a show next week. I will be down at the ATM show.
So, yep. I'll probably do a show and I'll see if I can get a guest on here.
Yeah, you could have other Connor on.
Yeah.
But
I felt so bad for that because it's like the morning. It was actually the night before that we had to get that we were going to do the show. That's when I started feeling sick, and I was like, Rachel's like, "Oh, you should probably cancel the show for tomorrow." And I was like, "I'll probably feel better in the morning." No, that did not happen. It was actually like, well, I ended up not throwing up the next morning. I ended up I was so weak, and I couldn't stay awake for more than like 2 hours at a time.
Yeah, that norovirus was not fun.
That's why when I woke up the next morning, my wife has actually kind of had a smirk on her face. So she's like, "So canceling the show?" And I was like, "Yep."
Shut up.
So that's when I sent you a quick message, and I sent the other Connor a quick message going like, "Yeah, I can't do this."
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to do it by yourself, but I can't do this.
Yeah. No, I'll be at the ATM show though.
So is that going to be in Wisconsin, or is that in DeKalb?
It's actually down in Lisle, Illinois.
Okay.
Which is like Naperville area.
Yep. My sister's first marriage was actually at a church in Lisle.
Okay.
And I used to work at the Daily Herald there.
Okay. Yeah.
Just very briefly, it was when we were transitioning from living in Minnesota to living in Illinois. And I really needed a job, but I couldn't find one that would pay me regularly. So I took that one. And out of like 3 months of working there, I think I earned $120.
Oh, Jesus.
I started doing door-to-door sales for the newspaper. And then I went on to doing, that was back when like you could do telemarketing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I suck doing door-to-door. Maybe I could do telephone marketing. That was even worse.
What was I thinking?
Well, because when you did it door to door, people would at least say, "No, thank you. Have a good day," and then shut the door.
Slam.
At least I was told to have a good day. Here, it was just like, "Hi, I'm calling from the Daily Herald." That's nice.
Click. Yeah. So, but
that was not a fun time. But
No, I've got stories about like with Rick. There was one time because I used to ride a lot with them to their shows, and because I was their merch guy, and one night we were coming back, and we were at a train. We were stopped because a train was going, through, and there was a truck in front of us that had like a U-Haul trailer. So I said, Tony, because Rick was driving, but I was like, Tony, I'll give you $5 if you jump out and slap an ATM sticker on the back of that U-Haul trailer. He's like, okay. Jumped out, slapped it on there, gets back in, and I'm like, hey, dumbass, it's upside down. And he's like, yes, it is. Where's my $5? But
you never said it had to be right side up.
right. But God, those guys they were crazy. And yeah, they used to wear like hot pink short shorts and then a white wife beater. That was their outfit on stage.
That actually sounds like fun. Yeah, so as I was telling him there, but yeah, I used to work at Borders Books, and he, honestly, he might have been one of the guests that we had there because we had this guy named Dan that would book guests that would come in and play in our cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, and that his band name sounded really familiar. So, and that's why I'm just like, I think that might have been him in there.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Then and the name Amazing Transparent Man is actually from a movie.
Mm-hmm.
By the same name, and that wasn't actually going to be their first name. Their first name was going to be Mars Needs Women, and from another movie. And they actually found out that there was already a band with that name.
Was that from Mars Needs Moms?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
but,
it was like an old Disney flop.
And then one of the other bands that they always used to play with was a group called the Fallopian Swim Team. that one was pretty funny.
Hey, looker.
And then yeah, I've found so many bands through ATM, like Rick said, where you'd go and read the liner notes and see the bands that they think,
and
then go look them up. And yeah, it was good times. Can't believe it's been 20 fucking years.
Yeah, it does not seem like it. But
no.
Yeah. I don't know why I always thought about this, but there was one of the bands, or actually one of the singers, guitar players that Dan booked for Borders. We really got tired of that guy very quickly. A lot of times when we get the rock bands over there, it was like, okay, you should really have them play outside because this is a very like closed in area. And when you're doing rock or almost close to metal, I can hear you in the back room, know, and we're 2 doors away and an entire store. Yeah. So, but people would get really tired of this one guy that would come in because he did the rock stuff. But then I get it, you want to walk around and kind of utilize your space. But he would like walk around to people who were not paying attention and then just start playing the guitar in their face.
Oh, geez.
Like he'd be like that close to them. And it'd be like, okay. And then he started walking around the entire store and he'd walk up to like people in the DVD section back when DVDs were still a thing. Yeah. And he'd like then put the guitar over his head and start playing it this way. And he'd just walk up to like random elderly people in the DVD section doing this. And it was like, leave them alone. You are the musical guest in the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
Come play around in the store later, but stop it. And I don't know why. We never did see him again after we told him to stop. And I was like, I don't know if he got mad because we told him to stop. But it was like, dude, at least have some common freaking courtesy.
No kidding. No,
I know it's a gig for you, but it's also a bookstore. So,
yeah,
I do miss some of those bands that we used to do though, because some of them were really, really good. But lo and behold, I don't even live in that area anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember the last. Well, I go down to DeKalb like once every summer. I try to get down there because my cousins own a pizza joint down there. That's really, really freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to go to that. But
speaking of pizza joints, I used to work at a gas station in Rockford. I was working at the Road Ranger, and an old classmate of my wife's actually owned a pizza store that was literally in the same building, just right behind us. So when I was doing overnights, he would actually keep his pizza store open until about midnight, and I would come in usually about 10:30. So I would call before my shift would start, and there were a lot of times that he couldn't run over, and I was like, wait, I'm the only one in this store, you're the only one in that store, how do we figure this out? So real quick, he would like just run it over by our ice machine, slap it there, and I would like leave a 20 there underneath a rock or something. We just kind of meet halfway. It was like the COVID way of doing it before COVID was a thing.
Yeah. The Subway that Rick and Tony had worked at, there were pretty much every Friday night I would go and hang out there and just free food the whole time. And, you know, like he said, I got sick of Subway for a while. I couldn't eat there for a while. Just from going there and hanging out so much, not even because I worked there or anything, because I didn't. But yeah, they were a great group to hang out with.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and so like I said, they fired me because of that hinge cut, but I was kind of glad that I didn't have to work there anymore, because it turned out that one of the ingredients that they have in there was causing me to break out. And I think it was the yeast, because it's like, you remember that, and I'm not trying to be mean, but you remember the machine that would actually make the bread? It was called the retarder, and that was actually the real name of it. But we would actually have to put the bread comes in like these little, almost like a little small doughy thing about this big, and you'd have to put it in there, kind of pinch it a little bit, put it in there, and then it would rise. And then you'd have to then put it in the little stuff there to, you know, wait and everything. And it turned out that because I was using that so much, and then we'd go right to working on something else and right to something else, I'd go home and I would have like all these red spots all over my arm. And eventually I was getting them like all over my body. And the doctor said it wasn't going to kill me, but it was because of all the yeast that I was working with.
Jesus.
He's like, we see that a lot with people that work in like bread factories and stuff. It's because the yeast just pretty much soaks into the clothes and then rubs on you all day.
Yeah, I believe it.
He's like, well, the best thing to do is take Benadryl and use Selsun Blue as body wash. The medicated Selsun Blue as body wash. So, and I'm like, buy the most expensive shampoo that I can find.
Right.
Or
and hope that it works.
Yeah, hope that it works, even though I'm going to continue to work here. But yeah, I didn't have to quit. They ended up just firing me. It's like because of a stupid hinge cut. And the day that they were firing me, though, I actually asked them, can I quit? And he just let me put in my notice and said it was 2 weeks prior. So I was like, okay, that still sucks. But then I got the job at Potbelly right after that. And then I got in with Best Buy like right after that.
Okay.
So
Potbelly, God, I miss Potbelly. Holy
oh my God,
they were so good.
Their sandwiches and their Dream Bars.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have the Dream Bar?
No, I've had but their sandwiches are amazing.
The Dream Bar is just what it sounds like. It's like a caramel brownie cookie.
Oh, geez.
I didn't say it was healthy. I just.
No, the last time I actually had Potbelly, it wasn't, many years ago. It was actually only about 2 years ago. Was when I was down in Chicago to see Baby Metal.
Okay.
We were walking, my friend Justin and I found a hotel that was like a mile walking from the venue. Mm-hmm. And so we walked to the venue, and on the way there was a Potbelly. And so we stopped in there for dinner before the show. And I'm like, God, I miss Potbelly.
Yeah, Potbelly was amazing.
Yeah. Do you remember Quiznos? Quiznos was good too.
Yeah, the last time I had Quiznos was actually the one that was in Rockford there, that was over by the Borders Books that was there.
Yeah.
Oh, did I ever tell you my story about Borders though? The one in Rockford?
Maybe.
So I worked at the one in DeKalb for almost 5 years, roughly. And then we quit because my wife and I moved to Independence, Missouri. And that's when Borders transferred me, and I got the job over at the Lee Summit, Missouri store. And I was there for a couple months. Now, long story short, we ended up having to move back. When we moved back, I called my boss at the Borders in DeKalb and I told her, I said, hey, you know, we're back. It didn't really work out. They said if I wanted to do a transfer, she'd sign the paperwork. Can you bring me back? Well, it was about, I want to say early to mid-December when we came back. And she said, okay, well, we've already hired on for Christmas. But I'm going to have a spot available for you, but just give me until after the holiday and I'll bring you back in January. And I was like, okay. I mean, that sucks that I don't have a check coming in for Christmas time, but
Right.
but whatever. Didn't think much of it. Come January, I don't hear back from her. And she's then I see in the news that Borders is filing bankruptcy and they're closing a lot of the stores. Well, it turned out that DeKalb was one of the stores that was closing. And I was like, you know what? You can't tell me you didn't see the writing on the wall.
Right.
You could have told me we don't know if we're going to be in business, but whatever. I was like, I can get mad, but what's that going to do? So I see that Rockford is still going to be in business. So I contact the Rockford store and the guy goes, oh yeah, we respected the DeKalb store, and I want to bring you on. He's like, but I got to do an official interview. And I was like, okay. So I go for my interview and it turns out the guy forgot about the interview and left. So I'm like, okay, that's unprofessional. Then I go in, he reschedules it, and he's like, okay, so come in a week. I go in the next week. Hi, I'm here for an interview. And they said, oh God, don't tell me that. And they said, our general manager who was supposed to do your interview had a family emergency and he had to take off. Can you come back next week? I'm like, this is annoying, but okay.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, well, I was living in Genoa at the time, so it's like it's not terribly far, but enough to be annoying.
Minor inconvenience.
Yeah, so I go back home, tell my mom who we were living with at the time, tell my wife what happened. I go back the next day, the next week, and I'm sitting in there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's here. Just hold on." I'm like, oh, I actually might get the interview this time. So, and while I'm sitting there, who do I see walk in but our corporate people? And I'm like literally walk in the door and I'm like,
they're there to fire him.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And as soon as they walk in, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm having an interview today. And then he walks out and he's like, so I'm sure you saw who walked in. I'm like, yeah, I saw him. And they're like, he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I will call you and we'll get this done. And I'm like, at this point, dude, you should just give me the job because I keep coming back.
For real. That's yeah. If this doesn't tell you that I'm not going to show up for my job or not,
And then a couple of weeks later, I don't hear back from him. And then I read that Borders is going down the whole franchise. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so that was just like, what was the point of that? I even said to my wife, I was like, I showed it to her on the computer at that time, and I was like, so what was the point? You could have just told me we don't know if we're going to be in business, so go away. Right. And then that's when I got the job at the gas station shortly after that.
Gotcha.
And actually, I got the job because the wife of the franchise of the owner of Road Ranger came into the DeKalb store and she liked my attitude. She liked the way that I could actually talk to people, and she offered me a job while I was at Borders. And as soon as the Borders was done, I was like, hey, I called Road Ranger and they were like, yep, fill out the application and we'll get you in. And they were like, I had like maybe a 2-minute interview before they were like, yeah, come on in.
Done. Nice.
Yeah, it was let's just say it was an interesting experience.
Sounds like it.
So, but yeah, going back to the music. I should ask you though. I know you've hung out with a lot of bands. What other bands besides like Sum 41 and those? Like, do you have any other stories that you could tell from times of hanging out with the Warped Tour?
Let's see. Well, I mean, Jerry Only gave me a cheeseburger. And I believe you even clipped that from our previous show when I was talking about, because Alien Ant Farm was behind me and I didn't realize it was them. I've met all of AFI. They're a bunch of real nice guys. A couple of the dudes from Sum 41. I met the lead singer. His name is escaping me right now, but the the lead singer of Flogging Molly. He was drunk as a skunk, which is to be expected. But Andrew WK, I've met. Nick 13 from Tiger Army. I've met a couple of the guys from God, what were they called now? Soul Clothing,
Okay.
I want to say. I've met Weird Al. I've met just
Wait,
it's
you said you met Weird Al, and then you kind of met the
Rick from Cheap Trick was
Rick
at the Weird Al
and you
signing.
said the guys from Insane Clown Posse were there.
Yeah, I didn't meet them, but they were walking around. They had like luchador masks on, and at first everybody just thought they were like people hired to cause like a distraction while we were waiting for Weird Al, but no, it turns out it was ICP because they were in the area doing a show that night.
And I love that. Were they like in disguise? It's like, oh no, it's like to be ICP and to wear a disguise, you pretty much just have to take off the clown makeup.
Yeah. I mean, that was back in the day when they didn't want people to see them without the clown makeup. Like now they don't care anymore. Like they've done interviews and things without the makeup. But back when they first started, they wanted to keep that whole enigma about them. And so that when they went out in public without the clown makeup on, they would wear luchador masks, and because they're big into wrestling as well. And so yeah, that was back then. God, I can't. Just so many bands. It's weird to sit back and think, oh yeah, I've met them. I had a cheeseburger from him. It's weird. Like
I've got more clips from that. I had to go in and reclip some of them, but yeah, I've got clips from those.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. It's kind of weird because, like I had told you earlier, I went to one of my friend's funeral today, and we're sitting there, and during the service, and they're going over what all he's accomplished in life and what he's done, and me and a couple of my friends after the service, we all just kind of went. They're sitting there reading all this off, and we're going, my God, what have I done with my life?
Right.
And it's like what sucked is like my friend's his dad was the high school guidance counselor, so like he knew everybody at this funeral because we were all students at one time or another under him. And it's like I was telling my wife on the way home when I was talking to him, and of course he's like, so what do you do now? And I'm just like, oh God, the question I didn't want to go, oh, I work at a gas station, like, hey, I amounted to nothing, and but
I do stuff.
It was I mean, it was a good service, as much as what a funeral can be, but it was one of those where everybody just kind of sat there and went, what have we done with our lives? Because like my friend, he freaking he graduated several colleges, and he got into like forensic science, and like he went to Afghanistan and was helping there during one of the Gulf Wars for like forensics crime scene shit. And then like he came back to Chicago and was working with the Cook County investigative teams, and his sister was saying how like she couldn't watch CSI anymore with him because every time they're in the laboratories, he's like, that's not right, or they're
Right.
ruining the evidence and things like that, and she's just like, shut up, I'm trying to watch the show. And then he got in, interestingly, because he was really big into art, and so he got into like this whole division about like crimes against art, where like when they would like spot forgeries and things like that, and like it was just like, God, how did he find the time to do all this? He was my age, and then I'm just like, yeah, I work at a gas station.
Right.
And so
that's when they say, what do you do? Yeah.
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah. So
that's whatever you were talking about for you.
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much.
I was looking for another reason to use that. and you very easily gave it to me there. Yeah, I clipped that one. I got a few others here, but yeah, that's I feel the same way a lot of times when everybody's like, "Oh, what have you done with your life?" When I look at like some of people that I knew on Facebook, like there's some of them that are like so advanced, and I'm just like, "Wow." Now I'm sad.
Mhm.
I'm happy for you, but I'm
But I'm
also
sad for me.
sad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh,
Nah.
excuse me.
Yeah,
Been
it's
up
been a
since-
long day.
I've been up since 5 a.m. So
Is that your normal time?
oh, that's normally actually I'm still at when I'm at work. I'm still at work at 5 a.m. But
Oh, okay.
no, I went to bed early last night because I had my alarm set for 5 so that I could get up and shower and shave and get ready, and then my wife could get ready so that we could be on the road because it was like almost a 3-hour drive to go to this funeral. So,
Yeah, I was sorry to hear about your friend. That really
Yeah.
sucks, but
yeah. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually just found out somebody that I worked with at Borders passed away just the other day. That was
Oh,
not
geez.
a fun thing to open Facebook to, and it's like, hey, this is her son, and this happened. I'm like, I opened Facebook to be happy, not,
Right.
you know, you
Facebook
have
is
ruined
supposed to be my escape, but
my escape from the horrors, but no. Yeah, and I won't be able to go to the funeral. The funeral's like 7 hours away.
oh yeah.
But
And
yeah.
it was funny because like when we first, I mean, I haven't seen any of these my friend's family in ages, and like the last time I talked to him, because he was my first friend in first grade, and like as we got older, we drifted apart into different cliques and things like that, and but I always stayed in contact with him on Facebook, and then he eventually got off Facebook. And I've lost all contact with him. And then 5 years ago, when my dad passed away, I don't know how, but he got my phone number and called me, and we talked for like a good 2 hours. And that was the last time I actually talked to him. And then I found out, a couple months, like a month ago, that he had passed away, and I was like, "What?" And but so when we got to the service today, and everybody's walking in single file and saying their condolences to the rest of the family, and his older sister was first in line, and I come walking up, and she's like, "I'm Rachel," and I'm like, "I know you are. That's Connor." And she's like, "Oh my god," like and but yeah. And then one thing that really actually was touching to me, like for whatever reason, his mom always called me Guy. Just like, "Hey Guy, how you doing?" Or "What you want, Guy?" And like she knew my name because she would use that too. But like when she saw me, she's just like, "Hi, Guy," and I'm just like, "Oh," like my heart just went out to her, like so that kind of made me happy but sad.
Right.
So, but
yeah, but yeah, actually, I don't know where I was going with that. just
that
totally
train is
lost.
just left the station.
Yep.
Yeah,
And now we
that's
just
good.
brought the whole show down.
That's a good ending note. Let's all end on a sadder
Yeah,
note.
sadder
On a sadder
ending.
note. Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully Rick can come back at some point. I'm hoping we can get some other artists on here as well.
Well, I know Tony has said that he would like to be on too. He just couldn't do it tonight. So I know Tony would be interested. I would like to do, like I had mentioned to you before, like a streamer show, and because I'm pretty sure Frank would jump on that. Give himself a chance to promote his stream and glitch energy, and but
So if we have a streamer show and they got stuff that they're promoting, we're gonna have to let every single person like go on it, like, "Oh, drink this, buy this, do this,
use this code to get a discount." Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, I'm the same way. I drink it's not Glitch, but another one of those energy drinks called Dubby. And I drink their stuff, but I don't hawk it like I probably should,
So there was actually a Raise Energy. I don't know if you ever heard about them.
That sounds familiar.
It's Raise.
RAZE, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they actually reached out to me at one point and asked if I would like a sponsorship. And I didn't know that they were one of those that like reached out to like every streamer they possibly could, but I didn't know that at the time, but I was highly looking at doing it. And and this was after I had congestive heart failure and everything. This was after all the stuff there. And I was like, okay, so an energy drink, but they never showed how like what the caffeine content was, what the sugar content was, anything like that. And I was like, I want to do this, but I don't want to drink something that's gonna put my health at risk.
Right. Right.
So I actually found all of the ingredients, and I found, because they have to list them somewhere. So I found every single ingredient that they have in there. I found the caffeine content, and it says not recommended for children under the age of 18. And I'm like, so this is probably going to be a no. But I had an appointment with my cardiologist a few days later. And I went
laughing.
Well, I went there and I handed it to her, and I was like, and I told her the situation. And she's like, what do you have? So I handed her the ingredient list, and she read it. And then she looked at me, and then she read it,
and then started laughing.
Looked at me, and she was like, Adam, what do you think I'm going to say to this? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what these ingredients are. And she's like, I wouldn't recommend somebody with a normal heart drink this crap. You think I'm going to give you the okay for this? Right. And I was like, so no.
if you want to live to see next week, you would stay away.
And so, but the thing was, like, because I had already accepted it, they sent me this whole freaking case of it, 24 cans. And I was like, so I can't drink a single one of these, So she's like, no, get rid of it. And I was like, well, I don't want to just throw it away. That seems like a huge waste. But I found a friend of mine that was actually took their sponsorship, and I just gave it to him. And I was like, here, you do it. He didn't really get anything out of it, but he said he loved the drinks, and I was like, yeah, you go ahead and kill yourself. I'm not gonna do this. And
I like Water Joe, and it's literally purified water and caffeine. That's the only two ingredients listed: purified water, caffeine. And like the bottle that I drink, it has like 120 milligrams of caffeine in it. And I was laughing because there's an energy drink now. I don't know if you'd really call it I call it an energy drink. Celsius.
I've seen it.
And I found a can of Celsius that's like half the size of the water bottle that I drink of Water Joe. And this can of Celsius has like 280 milligrams of caffeine in it. And I drank one on accident the other night at work, and they were all laughing at me because they're like, you're a pinball right now. You're just like bing, 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 bing. Like I had half of my task list done in the first like hour that I was at work. And I'm like, this is going to be a slow night. And they're like, well, yeah, you fucking did everything, and so, but
yeah, I worked Black Friday one week or 1 year at Best Buy. This was the Best Buy in Geneva, Illinois. And I had done one Black Friday before. I had done one other one, which was the Best Buy in Downers Grove. And when I did that, I knew that I had to be there super early. They actually wanted me there at 4 a.m. Because the doors opened at 5. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I get there, which meant that because I lived 35 minutes away, I was like, I have to wake up at like 2:30, or 3:30 to make sure, not 3:30, I'm sorry, no, 2:30 to make sure I'm there on time. So my dumbass decided to buy 2 things of 5-hour energy.
Oh, Jesus.
And not knowing, because I was like, so if I drink, it's 5-hour energy. If I drink it, that gives me 5 hours of energy, but I have a full shift to do. So I should drink 2 of them. That gives me 10 hours worth of energy. So, because I'm like,
common math,
not necessarily smart math. So
5
I drink
5 is 10.
So what I do is like on my way to work, I pop open one and I chug it all the way. And then I pop open the other one and I chug it all the way. And I get to work and I'm just like, hey, how you going? How's it going? How's it going? Let's make sure that we get this. We got to get this going and we got to get that going. And we got to get this one. And they're like, well, Adam's hyper. And I'm like, yeah, I took the energy. And I was actually getting the managers hyped up. I was like, are you ready? Are you ready? And I was like, they were like, so what happened to Adam? I was like, I've had too much caffeine. So, well then, we get everything going. The store goes, and of course, what do they order? They order pizza and they order pop. So, it's about halfway through my shift. I'm like, hey, I go and I get some pizza, and what do? I drink it with a big ass bottle of Mountain Dew. So I have now just chugged 2 things of 5-hour energy and Mountain Dew, which I'm just telling you now, not a smart thing to do because it was like almost 1 a.m. the next morning, and I was like, I've been awake for over 24 hours. Why am I not tired? Right. And then I looked it up and it was like may cause sleeplessness if combined with caffeine. I'm like, shit, I am not sleeping for like the next day and a half.
Why do I taste purple?
Yeah, that was about it. Like, so yeah. And I just could not believe, my mom couldn't believe that I was still awake and like bouncing off the walls like over 24 hours later. And I was like, yeah, less, because then when I crashed, man, did I go down.
Yeah,
that was like not even a slight hesitation, and I was like, and what else can we do? And boom.
Like that scene in Spaceballs when he's like, smoke if you got him, and then just falls over.
Mm-hmm. So. Oh man, that's the things that the actor from Spaceballs that yells out, we ain't found shit. He's like, I have got over 100 credits on IMDb. I have been in a million other things.
Everybody knows me for.
Everyone knows me as the guy that says, we ain't found shit. It's like, what else did you do? Nothing.
Yeah, just that. Just that.
Well, anyway, yeah, we've gone almost the full 2 hours. Was there anything else that you had?
I do have a question. Okay, so you'd asked about the bands that if they got back together, who would you want to see get back together? So what would be your ultimate one night only, 3 bands, could be present, could be past, broken up, still together, one night only, who would your 3 band show be?
I'd like to see Linkin Park before Chester died.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, do the artists have to be alive or dead, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Like, say you could bring them back to life. You could, you had the power just for one night only.
Okay, so Linkin Park with Chester Bennington, would be my top. And I know this kind of goes in. I don't know if I'm cheating doing this, but I'd also like to see them with Fort Minor.
Okay.
Fort Minor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'd like to see them with Fort Minor, and if I could have one other, I would say Nirvana.
Okay.
And combine them with Foo Fighters.
I being an 80s kid at heart, my one night only would be Oingo Boingo, Talking Heads, and Depeche Mode.
Okay.
That would be my one night only. I mean, if I put more thought into it, I could probably come up with a better lineup. But being an 80s kid and growing up on all of their songs, that's who I would want. If I had to substitute one, I would probably take out Talking Heads and put in Johnny Cash. So okay. I'd like to have seen him. So.
Yeah, I know that this band gets a lot of hate, but I would have liked to have seen Limp Bizkit live. I never saw them
in their prime. Yeah,
in their prime.
Yeah, because they're doing a tour now, I think, or just finished one, or
I think they just finished one. But I'm talking like in their prime.
Because Fred Durst has got the big bushy gray beard, and I've seen photos. So
yeah, no, when Limp Bizkit broke up, I think he got more into he was more into like directing. He directed, there was actually a family movie that he directed like shortly after Limp Bizkit broke up, and I know that he was also part of an NBC there was a mini series called Revelations, which was kind of based on the Book of Revelations. And I know he was in that, and I think he directed a couple episodes, but he got into directing. I don't know what he's been doing recently, but
I know that for a while there too, he was like helping other bands because, like, didn't he quote unquote find Stained? And I'm pretty sure he helped Puddle of Mud get off the ground. But yeah, I
think so.
So what was okay? One more question. What's the best show you've been to?
Best show that I've been to,
Or band that you've seen?
Oh, well, I saw Theory of a Dead Man live at On the Waterfront, and theirs was probably one of the best shows that I had seen.
Okay.
I mean, they really got the crowd into it. That, and I'd say Rock of Allegiance tour was one of my favorites, just because there were so many bands there. And it was like you'd think with that many rock bands there might be some problems out in the audience, but no, they were like making sure that nobody was misbehaving.
Yeah. I'd have to say the best one I ever went to was, you want to talk about bands right when they were like in their prime. It was Hole, Marilyn Manson, and Nine Inch Nails.
Okay.
And that was a wild show. So
see, I didn't get to go to a lot of shows as a kid. I didn't get to go to any real concerts until I was an adult, and that's because the music I was into, my mom wouldn't take me to the shows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I wear this like a fucking badge of honor. My very first concert, I was in like 6th or 7th grade. New Kids on the Block. I've seen New Kids on the Block. And then after that, I didn't go to any concerts until I turned 16, and that was Weird Al.
Yeah, I see. There's actually a story here. It's probably not going to paint my family in the best light, but my dad actually got me. He said he got me tickets to the Anger Management tour, and that was when Eminem was part of it, and Fred Durst, before that whole beef that they had.
Whole beef, yeah.
And it was going to be Dr. Dre, it was going to be Korn, it was going to be, there was a lot of these hard bands. I think Ice Cube was part of it. Yep. So where I say my mom wouldn't take me to these shows, it's because my sister was into a lot of those boy bands, and Madonna and things like that. She'd take my sister to these shows, but of course here I come and I'm like, Korn,
troublemaker.
Yeah, I'm into the ones that are like fuck,
Right.
And she didn't want to go to those, and of course my sister was dating a guy at the time who was telling my mom, oh yeah, they get into they do this on stage, they do that on stage. And I'm like, you realize it's for showmanship. It's not real,
Right.
I was a kid trying to explain what showmanship was.
Right. This isn't Ozzy biting a bat head, Mom. God.
Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, you can get hurt at those concerts because of the mosh pits and you can't avoid them. And I'm like, you can very much avoid a mosh pit.
Oh yeah.
If one starts around you, you just kind of move off to the side,
Yep. Or hang out in the back.
Right, exactly. So, where I was going with that, my dad said that he bought me these tickets that were supposed to be like right in the center, great seats and everything. And then my mom found out what kind of bands these were, so she told me that I couldn't go. So then I was trying to find somebody to get these tickets to. My cousin said that he'd buy them, and I told my dad, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." And then once it came down time for my cousin to buy them, my dad's like, well, long story short, my dad never bought the tickets. He just lied to me, told me he did. So then I had to go to my cousin, tell him, sorry, your uncle lied,
Right.
There was this whole blow up with the family that we didn't talk to him for like 4 months.
Jeez.
After that. But yeah, so that actually was like put a kibosh on me going to the concerts. So then when my wife and I got together, one of our first dates was going to see Cheap Trick because they were the main headliner at On the Waterfront. And I was like, that was fun. I really want to do that again. Then, I think Puddle of Mud showed up the next year. And then we just kept every single year we were finding like, who's the main headliner? I like them. Let's go. Who's the main headliner? I don't care if I like them. Let's go.
Right.
we were,
Let's just go.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
then eventually it just got to the point where we were like, who's playing? I don't care. Let's
Right.
go. Yeah, and then Rock of Allegiance Tour was the only one on the waterfront that we actually had to pay anything. That's, like I said, technically they weren't part of On the Waterfront, but because they were going through town right the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was actually a lot of fun. That, like I said, that was probably the most fun I had ever had. Even though we tried to get a mosh pit going, nobody was interested. By the time another guy was interested, everyone was tired.
Sounds about right.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
right.
that was watching Buck Cherry up there. I mean, I'm like, how did this guy become famous? He's singing about cocaine.
oh yeah.
And I was like, but then again, didn't Eric Clapton sing a song about cocaine?
Yeah, it was literally fucking called Cocaine. Like that was the name of the song, I think. But
I used to joke with my mom. She'd be like, why do you like such violent things? I was like, hey, you're listening to a song called I Shot the Sheriff.
right.
He's literally
Yeah.
admitting to murdering.
But he didn't shoot the deputy.
Yeah.
So but yeah, no, my mom and I got into an argument once because as a kid I drank a shit ton of Mountain Dew.
Mhm.
And she'd be going on and on about, oh, how much caffeine and you're ruining your body. And I'm like, okay, and how many cups of coffee have you had today? Like this is your 7th. Okay, yeah, sit down. Like, but
Yeah,
But,
I
yeah.
do that with my mom a lot too. A lot of times she'll be like, like, if I'll eat something unhealthy, she'll be like, you really shouldn't eat that. And I'm like, you weigh more than I do. And I just saw you, buy another 24 case of Coke.
right. Yeah.
Do as I say,
I
not
mean,
as I do, I guess.
I'm waiting for the days for my kids to start calling me out on shit. So
I think you might have at least another year or so.
maybe. I mean, my older one's turning 12 this month, and my younger one just turned 9. So
And
soon.
the older one's going to influence the younger one.
Maybe, they're kind of opposites. We've always joked that the younger one's going to be the one that the schools call us about,
Mhm,
and the older one's going to be the one that was telling on them.
mhm.
So like they're like
Oh, I can
opposites
see-
in that sense.
I can see that. My nephew, who just turned 9 last November, he's the good kid. His
Mhm.
sister, who just turned 6, and I'm like, I didn't realize how much of the troublemaker she was until we saw them last couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's the one causing all the problems, and he's sitting there being good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they said, and I asked his parents, they were like, yeah, this is what it's like all the time. He gets in trouble every so often, but she's the one we gotta
Right.
chase after. No, but anything else you want to end on, or
No, I'm good.
No.
Like I said, I won't be here next week, so
So-
good luck with that show. I don't know what you got planned, but I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll be good.
oh, we'll definitely get something
And,
going here.
And then yeah, I'll be back the week after that. So
All
with
right.
stories about ATM.
See if
So,
you can get Rick to come back the next week.
maybe you never know. I was curious how he told me before we went live, he was telling me that Tony, because Tony lives down in Texas,
Mhm.
and he said Tony's flying in tomorrow, and he said we're just basically going to be practicing all week because this is like the first time they've gotten back together in like 20 years. So
It's gonna be a reunion.
for sure.
So.
All
All
right.
right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out.
Yes,
And
thank you. Frank,
yeah,
thank you for hanging out. Looker, thank you.
Yep.
So
And we'll see everybody next time.
sounds good.
Maybe.
Good night, everybody.